Everyone looked at her and saw a homeless mother who had failed in life. But nobody knew she was fighting a battle that would one day leave an entire town ashamed of how they treated her. People often believe what they see with their own eyes, but appearances rarely tell the complete story. Sarah experienced this reality every single day. As she walked through the streets with her young daughter in a worn-out stroller, strangers immediately formed opinions about her. They noticed her old clothes, tired face, and the fact that she had no permanent home. Without knowing anything about her past, her struggles, or the circumstances that had led her there, they decided who she was. To them, she was simply another homeless woman who had somehow failed in life. Whenever Sarah entered a store, suspicious eyes followed her every movement. Some shopkeepers watched her closely, afraid she might steal something. Customers would glance at her and then quickly look away, whispering among themselves. Parents pulled their children closer whenever she walked past, as if her situation alone made her dangerous. No one stopped to ask her name. No one asked if she needed help. Instead, they created their own version of her story based entirely on what they could see. The painful part was that Sarah heard many of these comments. People often assumed she was too distracted or too broken to notice. They spoke openly about her, believing she was invisible. Some said she must have made terrible decisions. Others claimed she was lazy and unwilling to work. A few even suggested that she did not care about her daughter because no loving mother would allow her child to live in such conditions. Each comment carried a sting, but Sarah rarely responded. She understood that arguing would not change minds that had already reached a conclusion. What nobody realized was that the image they saw represented only a tiny fraction of Sarah's life. They were judging a single moment without understanding the years of pain, sacrifice, and determination that came before it. Every worn piece of clothing, every sleepless night, and every difficult day carried a story hidden beneath the surface. Yet people never looked deeply enough to discover it. They accepted the easiest explanation, instead of considering that life can sometimes place good people in heartbreaking situations. This tendency to judge based on appearance is something many people experience in different ways. Society often teaches people to make quick assessments. A person's clothes, job, home, or financial situation become shortcuts for determining their value. Unfortunately, these shortcuts are often wrong. Someone who appears successful may be struggling silently, while someone who appears broken may possess incredible strength and resilience. Sarah was a perfect example of this truth. Although she appeared vulnerable and defeated, she was fighting one of the hardest battles of her life with remarkable courage. Every day, Sarah put her daughter's needs before her own. She skipped meals so her child could eat. She endured cold nights so her daughter could stay warm. She carried emotional pain that few people could imagine, yet she continued moving forward. These acts of love and sacrifice went unnoticed because they did not fit the assumptions people had already made about her. The crowd saw homelessness and concluded failure. They saw poverty and concluded irresponsibility. They never stopped to consider that a person's current circumstances do not define their character, worth, or potential. The greatest tragedy was not Sarah's lack of money or shelter. It was the way people treated her because of what they believed they knew. Their judgment created barriers where compassion could have existed. Their assumptions prevented understanding. By focusing only on what was visible, they missed the extraordinary story hidden behind the woman they passed every day. They failed to see her strength, her determination, her love for her daughter, and the hope she carried despite overwhelming hardship. In the end, their judgment revealed far more about them than it ever did about her. Every person carries a story that the world cannot see. Some battles are fought openly, while others remain hidden behind quiet smiles, tired eyes, and ordinary routines. Sarah's life was a powerful reminder of this truth. To the people around her, she appeared to be just another homeless mother struggling to survive. They saw her pushing a worn stroller through the streets, searching for food, shelter, and warmth. What they did not see were the countless sacrifices, fears, and challenges she faced every day. They could only see the surface. while the most important parts of her story remained invisible. Each morning, Sarah followed a routine that puzzled many people. She would leave her daughter in the care of a trusted volunteer at the community center and disappear for several hours. No one knew where she went. Some people became curious, while others became suspicious. Since they lacked facts, they filled the gaps with assumptions. Rumors spread quickly throughout the town. Some believed she was hiding something. Others thought she might be involved in activities she did not want anyone to know about. The more people speculated, the further they drifted from the truth. What nobody understood was that Sarah's daily disappearances were connected to a battle that had consumed years of her life. While others spent their days judging her situation, she spent hers gathering documents, attending meetings, and fighting for justice. The process was exhausting. Every appointment carried the possibility of disappointment. Every setback tested her patience and determination. Yet she continued because she believed that giving up would mean surrendering her daughter's future along with her own. The burden she carried was not only financial, it was emotional as well. Sarah lived with the memory of losing people she loved and the pain of watching her life fall apart piece by piece. She remembered better days, happier moments, and dreams that once seemed certain. Those memories followed her everywhere. They stayed with her during cold nights under bridges, during long walks through the city, and during moments when she questioned whether her struggle would ever end. Still, she refused to let despair take control. Many people assume that strength always looks confident and powerful. In reality, strength often appears in much quieter forms. Sometimes it looks like a mother pretending she is not hungry so her child can eat. Sometimes it looks like someone getting up every morning despite having every reason to stay down. Sometimes it looks like choosing hope when circumstances offer very little reason for optimism. Sarah displayed this kind of strength every day, but because her battles were invisible, few people recognized it. Her daughter was the reason she kept moving forward. Whenever Sarah felt overwhelmed, she looked at the little girl sitting beside her and found the motivation to continue. The child depended on her completely. She needed protection, comfort, and reassurance. Sarah understood that her daughter was too young to fully understand their situation, so she did everything she could to shield her from fear. Even when Sarah felt uncertain inside, she tried to appear strong on the outside. She smiled through tears, offered comforting words during difficult moments, and promised a better future despite not knowing exactly when it would arrive. The people around her interpreted her silence as weakness. They assumed that because she rarely defended herself, she had nothing worth defending. In truth, Sarah simply chose to focus her energy elsewhere. She understood that explaining her story to every stranger would not solve her problems. She had more important battles to fight. While others spent their time talking about her, she spent hers working toward a solution. This is what makes hidden struggles so difficult to understand. The people carrying them often continue functioning while suffering in ways nobody notices. They go to work, care for their families, fulfill responsibilities, and maintain routines while carrying burdens that would surprise those around them. Because these battles are not visible, they are often ignored or misunderstood. Yet they shape lives every day. Sarah's story shows how dangerous it can be to assume that someone's visible circumstances reveal their entire reality. Behind every person is a collection of experiences, hardships, dreams, fears, and sacrifices that outsiders may never fully understand. The stranger sitting alone, the parent working multiple jobs, the student struggling in silence, or the person facing financial hardship may all be fighting battles that remain hidden from the world. What appears simple from the outside may be incredibly complicated beneath the surface. The truth is that many of the strongest people are carrying challenges nobody knows about. Their courage is not displayed through grand speeches or dramatic actions, but through their willingness to keep going despite overwhelming obstacles. Sarah's journey was a powerful example of this reality. While the town saw only a homeless mother, they failed to see the determination, resilience, and unwavering love that guided her through every difficult day. They never realized that behind her quiet presence existed a story filled with loss, sacrifice, perseverance, and hope. A story far greater than anything their assumptions had allowed them to imagine. Rumors often begin with a simple observation, a small misunderstanding, or a question that nobody has the patience to answer properly. Once they start spreading, they grow quickly, changing shape with every conversation. What begins as uncertainty soon becomes accepted as truth, even when there is little or no evidence to support it. Sarah became a victim of this process. Because people did not know the reality of her situation, they created their own explanations. Over time, those assumptions turned into rumors, and those rumors shaped the way an entire community viewed her. At first, people simply noticed that Sarah was homeless and raising a young daughter on the streets. Some wondered how she had ended up in such a difficult situation. Instead of asking her directly or showing concern, many chose to speculate. One person suggested she had made poor life choices. Another claimed she must have been irresponsible with money. Someone else assumed she refused to work. None of these people knew anything about her history, yet their guesses quickly spread from one conversation to another. The problem with rumors is that they often sound believable. People tend to accept information that fits their existing assumptions. Since Sarah appeared poor and exhausted, many found it easy to believe negative stories about her. The rumors seemed to confirm what they already thought they knew. As a result, very few people questioned whether those stories were actually true. As weeks passed, the speculation became even more damaging. People noticed that Sarah disappeared for several hours almost every day after leaving her daughter with a volunteer. Instead of considering innocent explanations, many immediately imagined the worst. Some believed she was involved in illegal activities. Others claimed she was hiding a secret life. A few suggested that she was neglecting her responsibilities as a mother. Every new rumor added another layer of judgment to her reputation. What made the situation even more painful was that Sarah often heard these conversations. People discussed her openly in stores, on sidewalks, and in public spaces. They spoke as if she were not standing only a few feet away. Some lowered their voices to whisper, while others made comments loud enough for her to hear directly. The words may have seemed insignificant to the people speaking them, but for Sarah, each one was another reminder of how misunderstood she had become. Rumors have a unique ability to influence behavior. Once people believe a certain story about someone, they begin treating that person according to the story rather than the truth. This is exactly what happened to Sarah. Store owners watched her more closely than other customers. Strangers avoided sitting near her. Some people refused to offer help because they believed the rumors they had heard. Their perception of her was no longer based on personal experience, but on stories passed from one person to another. The most dangerous aspect of rumors is that they remove a person's humanity. Instead of seeing a real individual with emotions, struggles, and dreams, people begin seeing a character they have created in their minds. Sarah stopped being a mother trying to protect her child and became a symbol of failure in the eyes of many residents. They reduced her entire identity to a collection of assumptions and gossip. This made it easier for them to judge her without guilt, because they were no longer considering the full complexity of her life. Ironically, many of the people spreading rumors believed they were simply discussing facts. They repeated information they had heard from others without questioning its accuracy. One person would say, "I heard she refuses to work," and another would repeat the same statement as if it were proven truth. With each retelling, the uncertainty disappeared. Speculation transformed into certainty, even though the original claim had never been verified. Meanwhile, the real story remained hidden. While rumors painted Sarah as careless and irresponsible, she was actually spending her days fighting an exhausting legal battle. While some accused her of avoiding work, she was taking difficult jobs whenever possible to support herself and her daughter. While others questioned her commitment as a parent, every decision she made was driven by her desire to build a better future for her child. The truth and the rumors could not have been more different, yet the rumors were the version most people chose to believe. This situation reflects a larger problem that exists in many communities. People often feel more comfortable sharing assumptions than seeking understanding. It is easier to repeat a story than to investigate it. It is easier to judge than to empathize. Unfortunately, these habits can cause significant harm. False narratives can damage reputations, isolate individuals, and create barriers that prevent meaningful human connection. For Sarah, the emotional cost was enormous. She carried enough pain without having to defend herself against stories that were not true. Every rumor added another burden to an already difficult life. Yet she rarely confronted those spreading them. She understood that people who wanted to believe the worst would likely continue doing so regardless of what she said. Instead, she focused on the things she could control, caring for her daughter, continuing her legal fight, and holding on to hope despite the negativity surrounding her. When the truth finally emerged, the impact was immediate. The same people who had repeated rumors suddenly realized how wrong they had been. The stories they had confidently shared collapsed in an instant. Their assumptions had not merely been slightly inaccurate, they had been completely opposite to reality. Many felt embarrassed. Others felt guilty. Some struggled to accept that they had judged someone so harshly without knowing the facts. The revelation forced the community to confront an uncomfortable truth about itself. The problem had never been Sarah. The problem was the willingness of people to accept rumors as reality. Their assumptions had blinded them to the humanity of the person standing right in front of them. They had chosen gossip over understanding, judgment over compassion, and speculation over truth. In doing so, they missed the opportunity to support someone who was fighting one of the most difficult battles of her life, while demonstrating extraordinary courage and resilience every single day. Most people imagine strength as something obvious. They picture confident individuals standing tall in moments of victory, overcoming obstacles with visible determination, and receiving recognition for their achievements. Society often associates strength with power, success, wealth, or influence. Because of this, many fail to recognize true strength when it appears in a different form. Sarah's story challenges this perception. To the outside world, she looked vulnerable, exhausted, and defeated. Her clothes were worn, her resources were limited, and her future seemed uncertain. Yet beneath that appearance existed a level of strength that few people around her could have matched. Every morning Sarah woke up without the security that many people take for granted. She did not know where she would sleep the following night. She did not know whether she would have enough money for food, transportation, or other necessities. The uncertainty of her situation followed her constantly. For many people, living with such instability would feel overwhelming. It would be easy to surrender to hopelessness, to stop trying, or to accept defeat. Sarah faced those challenges every day, yet she continued moving forward. That persistence alone revealed a strength that was invisible to most observers. One of the greatest misconceptions about strength is the belief that strong people never feel fear. In reality, strength often exists alongside fear. Sarah was afraid many times. She worried about her daughter's safety. She worried about their future. She worried about whether her legal battle would ever reach a successful conclusion. She worried about the next meal, the next place to sleep, and the next unexpected obstacle that might appear. These fears were real and powerful. However, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision to keep going despite it. Sarah demonstrated that kind of courage every single day. Her strength became especially clear in the sacrifices she made for her daughter. There were countless moments when Sarah placed her child's needs above her own. When food was limited, she made sure her daughter ate first. When temperatures dropped, she focused on keeping her daughter warm, even if it meant enduring discomfort herself. When emotions threatened to overwhelm her, she hid her tears and offered reassurance instead. These sacrifices were not dramatic enough to attract attention from strangers, but they reflected a deep and powerful form of strength rooted in love. Many people assume that resilience means never breaking down emotionally. Sarah's experience proved otherwise. There were nights when she cried. There were moments when exhaustion and grief felt unbearable. She carried the pain of losing her husband, the frustration of losing her home, and the disappointment of watching her life unravel despite her efforts. These emotions weighed heavily on her heart. Yet even after experiencing those moments of sadness, she found the determination to stand up again and continue fighting. Her resilience was not built on perfection. It was built on persistence. Another reason her strength went unnoticed was because it lacked visible rewards. Society often celebrates people after they succeed, but rarely pays attention to the difficult journey that leads to success. Sarah spent years fighting a legal battle that seemed impossible to win. Day after day, she attended meetings, gathered evidence, and navigated complicated challenges. There were no crowds cheering for her efforts. There were no headlines celebrating her determination. Most people were unaware that the struggle even existed. Yet she continued because she believed the fight was worth pursuing. This type of quiet perseverance is often underestimated. It does not create dramatic moments or instant results. Instead, it requires individuals to keep moving forward when progress is slow and uncertain. Sarah repeatedly chose this path. She invested her energy into a future she could not yet see. She accepted setbacks without allowing them to define her. She remained committed to her goals even when circumstances provided little encouragement. Such perseverance requires immense inner strength because it demands faith in possibilities that have not yet become reality. Sarah's interactions with others also revealed her character. Throughout her struggles, she faced criticism, judgment, and humiliation. Many people treated her unfairly. Some questioned her choices. Others made assumptions about her worth. Despite this treatment, she rarely responded with anger. She could have become bitter or resentful. She could have directed her frustration toward the people who misunderstood her. Instead, she focused on protecting her peace and conserving her energy for battles that truly mattered. Choosing restraint in the face of disrespect is another form of strength that often goes unnoticed. The ability to maintain hope was perhaps one of Sarah's greatest strengths. Hope is easy when circumstances are favorable. It becomes much more difficult when life repeatedly delivers disappointment. Sarah experienced loss after loss. She lost financial stability. She lost her home. She lost her husband. She lost the comfort and security she once knew. Despite these hardships, she never completely abandoned hope. She continued believing that a better future was possible, even when there was little evidence to support that belief. Maintaining hope under such conditions requires remarkable emotional endurance. Her daughter played an important role in sustaining that hope. Every time Sarah looked at her child, she saw a reason to keep fighting. The little girl represented possibility, purpose, and responsibility. Sarah understood that her daughter depended on her not only for physical care, but also for emotional guidance. Children often take cues from the adults around them. If Sarah surrendered to despair, her daughter would feel that despair as well. By continuing to show love, encouragement, and optimism, Sarah gave her child something valuable even during their most difficult circumstances: a sense of security and belief in the future. What makes Sarah's strength particularly inspiring is that it was rooted in ordinary choices. She did not possess extraordinary powers or unlimited resources. She was not protected from hardship. She faced challenges that many people encounter in real life. Her strength emerged through small decisions repeated over time: choosing to get up each morning, choosing to continue the legal battle, choosing to care for her daughter despite exhaustion, choosing to remain hopeful despite setbacks, choosing to move forward despite uncertainty. These choices accumulated day after day, creating a powerful example of resilience. When the truth about her situation finally became known, many people were shocked. They had spent so much time focusing on her appearance that they failed to recognize the extraordinary determination hidden beneath it. They assumed strength would look successful, confident, and comfortable. Instead, They discovered that strength had been walking past them every day wearing worn-out shoes and pushing an old stroller. The woman they pitied had endured hardships that many of them could barely imagine. The person they considered weak had demonstrated remarkable courage for years without recognition. The revelation forced people to reconsider their understanding of strength itself. They began to realize that strength is not measured by wealth, status, or outward appearance. It is measured by how individuals respond to adversity. It is found in those who continue moving forward when life becomes difficult. It exists in parents who sacrifice for their children, in people who fight for justice despite overwhelming odds, and in individuals who maintain hope when circumstances seem hopeless. Sarah embodied all of these qualities. Her journey showed that true strength often hides behind struggles that others cannot see, quietly revealing itself through perseverance, sacrifice, compassion, and an unwavering refusal to give up even when the world mistakes endurance for weakness and hardship for failure. When Sarah's long battle finally came to an end, everything in her life changed. The legal victory that she had spent years fighting for brought financial security, stability, and opportunities she had not experienced in a very long time. News of her success spread quickly throughout the town. The same people who had once whispered about her now spoke about her with admiration. Those who had judged her from a distance suddenly wanted to know more about her story. Many expected Sarah to leave town and start a completely new life somewhere else. Others assumed she would use her newfound wealth to enjoy the comforts she had been denied for so many years. No one would have blamed her if she had done exactly that. After everything she had suffered, she had every reason to focus only on herself and her daughter. She had spent years struggling through pain, uncertainty, and hardship. She had endured judgment from strangers and rejection from people who never took the time to understand her situation. If she had chosen to distance herself from everyone who had hurt her, most people would have considered it understandable. But Sarah surprised everyone. Instead of using her victory as an opportunity for revenge, she used it as an opportunity to help others. The years she spent homeless had changed her in ways that money could never erase. She remembered every cold night, every hungry afternoon, and every moment she felt invisible. She remembered the fear of not knowing where she and her daughter would sleep. She remembered standing in lines hopping for help and hearing there was no room available. Most importantly, she remembered how loneliness felt when people looked at her with judgment instead of compassion. Those memories stayed with her. Rather than trying to forget them, she allowed them to guide her decisions. One day, Sarah returned to the same community center that had once offered her small acts of kindness during the hardest period of her life. She met with volunteers, local leaders, and social workers. Together, they discussed a problem that still existed within the town. Too many families facing temporary hardship had nowhere to go. Shelters were overcrowded. Resources were limited. Parents and children were often forced to endure difficult conditions simply because there was not enough support available. Sarah listened carefully. She knew exactly what those families were experiencing because she had once stood in their place. Soon, she announced a plan that left many people speechless. She would fund the creation of a new shelter designed specifically for struggling families. The project was ambitious. It would provide safe sleeping areas, meals, educational resources, counseling services, and support programs aimed at helping families regain stability. Sarah wanted the shelter to be more than just a temporary refuge. She wanted it to be a place where people could rebuild their lives with dignity and hope. Construction began within months. As the project moved forward, many residents volunteered their time. Some donated supplies. Others offered professional services. Ironically, several of the people who had once judged Sarah became some of the shelter's most dedicated supporters. They had learned a difficult lesson from her story and wanted to help create something positive from that experience. Sarah welcomed them without bitterness. She never stood in front of a crowd and reminded people of how poorly they had treated her. She never demanded apologies or sought public recognition. Although she had every right to be angry, she chose a different path. She understood that carrying resentment would only prolong the pain. Forgiveness did not mean forgetting what happened. It meant refusing to let past wounds control the future. This decision revealed another remarkable aspect of her character. True kindness is often most powerful when it is extended to people who may not deserve it. Many individuals are capable of being kind when life is going well. It becomes much harder to show compassion after experiencing betrayal, judgment, or mistreatment. Yet Sarah demonstrated that kindness is not merely a reaction to how others treat us. It is a choice about the kind of person we want to become. As the shelter neared completion, excitement spread throughout the community. Families who were struggling finally had reason to feel hopeful. Volunteers worked tirelessly to prepare the building for opening day. Donations arrived from businesses and individuals inspired by Sarah's vision. What had started as one woman's dream gradually became a community effort. The grand opening attracted a large crowd. Residents gathered outside the building, eager to see the result of months of work. Many people remembered the day Sarah had stood in similar places seeking help for herself and her daughter. Now, she stood before them as the founder of a project that would change countless lives. When Sarah stepped to the microphone, the crowd fell silent. She looked around at the faces before her. Some were people who had supported her. Others were people who had doubted her. Many were individuals she had never met. Yet she greeted them all with the same warmth. She spoke about the importance of compassion. She spoke about the struggles that many people face behind closed doors. She reminded everyone that difficult circumstances can affect anyone regardless of background, education, or past success. Most importantly, she emphasized that people need understanding during their hardest moments, not judgment. Her words touched everyone listening. There was no anger in her voice, no desire for revenge. Only gratitude, wisdom, and hope. Above the entrance of the shelter, a simple message had been placed for every visitor to read. Everyone has a story you cannot see. Those words quickly became a symbol for the entire community. Parents shared them with their children. Teachers discussed them in classrooms. Volunteers repeated them during training sessions. The message served as a reminder that every person carries experiences, struggles, and challenges that may not be visible from the outside. Over time, the shelter helped hundreds of families. Some arrived with nowhere else to go. Others needed temporary support while overcoming financial difficulties. Many eventually regained stability and moved forward with their lives. Each success story became part of Sarah's legacy. Years later, people no longer remembered Sarah primarily as the homeless mother who once pushed a stroller through town. They remembered her as the woman who transformed pain into purpose, the woman who answered judgment with compassion, the woman who used her suffering to create hope for others. Her story became a powerful example of how kindness can create lasting change. Wealth had given Sarah the ability to help people, but it was her character that inspired her to do so. The true victory was not the money she received or the legal battle she won. The true victory was the impact she made on the lives of others. In the end, Sarah proved that kindness has the power to heal wounds, build bridges, and transform communities. A single act of compassion can create ripples that extend far beyond what anyone can imagine. While judgment divides people, kindness brings them together. While assumptions create barriers, understanding creates connection. And while hardship can make some hearts bitter, it can also make others stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Moral of the story: never judge people by their appearance or circumstances, because everyone is fighting battles you may never see. Choose kindness over assumptions, compassion over criticism, and understanding over judgment. The way you treat someone during their hardest moments may become the reason they never give up, and a small act of kindness today can change a life forever. Disclaimer: this story is created for educational and entertainment purposes. While inspired by real-life struggles many people face, the characters, events, and situations in this story are fictional. The purpose is to share a meaningful message about kindness, empathy, and avoiding judgment based on appearances.